Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our fourth and final EPIC training event of the academic year. I'm Julie Tennille, Project Director for EPIC, and I want to thank my dear colleagues, Wendy Myers, our Grant Program Coordinator, and Sarah Franciotti, our Research Assistant, for the fantastic work they do to keep these events and all things EPIC running smoothly. We are so excited about this presentation tonight, and we'll introduce our speakers shortly. Please log in with your full name for attendance credit. If you need to change your name, click on the three dots in the upper right corner of your personal window. And finally, please listen closely to what I'm about to say. If you want CEUs or a certificate of attendance, you are required to attend the entire training and complete a certificate request form while the event is still live. The link is available at the end of the post-test after the presentation. Due to the size of our audience, we ask that you remain muted and hold off on entering comments. However, please keep track of your questions throughout the presentation. At 7:40, you'll have the opportunity to enter those questions into the chat for a period of questions and answers. And our presenters may decide periodically through their presentation to take some questions, and they'll let you know when that happens. Also, a reminder that the goal of this research and training grant is to expand numbers of well-trained MSW, MED school counseling, and PsyD professionals working with children, adolescents, and transitional-aged youth in high need and high demand areas. Tonight's presentation is on replicable models and strategies to reduce generational poverty. Our speakers for this evening are David Hage and Katherine Pohlidal. So for a more detailed description of their bios, please see the EPIC website. And what I will do at this point is stop sharing my slides, and I will turn it over to our presenters for the evening. So welcome, David. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Julie. So it's our great pleasure to be here with you tonight and to have the opportunity to have a conversation and discuss poverty and some models and strategies to address that. Our emphasis will be in particular on Pennsylvania and women and children as a point of focus. So as you can see, there's three names here. Our colleague, Hage was unable to join us due to an unexpected issue that came up, but she's a very talented attorney who's gone through one of our programs, and Katherine is very close to her, and we'll be able to still share her story. And my name is David Hage. I'm a social work faculty at Misericordia University. I have a background in working with children and women in a maternity home that were facing homelessness earlier in my career, and always am interested in sharing, ways that we could positively impact and reduce poverty and help people have a better opportunity. So Katherine, would you like to introduce yourself now?
Sure. Thank you so much, David. Hello, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here today. I'm Katherine Pohlidal. I'm the director of the Ruth Matthews Bourger Women with Children program here at Misericordia University. We are a 2-gen holistic modeled program that serves single mothers who are in poverty along with their children. So I'm thrilled that I will be able to share a lot more details around our program this evening. And generally speaking, my background has been as an LPC, as a clinician in higher education for almost 10 years before now serving as the Bourger Women with Children program director for the last decade as well. So I look forward to speaking with you tonight and going over more details around our program. So thank you.
So our program today is going to look at, as we alluded to, lessons learned that focus on a replicable model for reducing generational poverty. So there'll be 2 programs that can be models to learn from that we're going to discuss in particular. And unfortunately, like I said, our other speaker couldn't join us, but Katherine's going to share the story, the amazing story of that student and probably some others. And the award-winning Ruth Matthews Bourger Women with Children program and Parent Pathways of Northeastern Pennsylvania Models of Poverty Reduction will be examined in detail. And Katherine will also talk about how the Parent Pathways program is moving further across the state as an opportunity as well. So we hope that at the end of this presentation, we'll achieve 3 objectives. And the first would be to describe the current state of poverty in Pennsylvania, to review interprofessional models for supporting diverse women and children living in poverty, and explore team strategies to plan and reduce intergenerational poverty. So our emphasis will be on Pennsylvania in particular. And when looking at the demographics of Pennsylvania, it's interesting to see, where the trends lie. And so when we look at age and sex, the median age in Pennsylvania is about 40 years old or 41 years old, slightly older than the US population in general. In terms of sex, there are 97.5 males to every 100 female. So in terms of ancestry, about 10%, 10.5% are of Italian ancestry, and about 4.8 or 4.8 in the US as a whole are of Italian ancestry. So we also have an interesting mix of other backgrounds here as well. We have some representation of German descent, Irish descent, Italian, Norwegian, Polish, Scottish, Sub-Saharan African. In our area in particular, in Northeastern Pennsylvania, we have a lot of Irish lineage and Italian and different Hispanic and Latinx backgrounds as well. So in terms of native-born versus foreign-born, about 7.5% of the people in Pennsylvania are foreign-born, and that's less by almost half compared to the US population. In terms of languages spoken at home, we have about a 12.3% population in Pennsylvania speaking English, and about 22% in the US speaking languages other than English. And those other languages are predominantly Spanish, European languages, Asian and Pacific Islander languages, or other languages. In terms of residential mobility, Pennsylvania has about 2% of the population that moved from another state, and that's pretty close to the US population, where about 2.5% moved from another state. In terms of median earnings by family type, the median household income in Pennsylvania is about $71,000, $798, and in the US, $74,000 and $755. Interestingly, if you look at the diagram here, you'll see the differences and the disparity in the income levels by family type. So non-family households are at about $42,000. Married couples that constitute a family are at about $109,000, and families that identify otherwise are about $93,000. So if we look at age, about 12% of people in Pennsylvania in general are in poverty. That's a little bit less than the US in general. And we could see in the diagram here that young people are particularly vulnerable to poverty, as we well know. In addition to those under 18, those between 18 and 64 are about at the average we discussed, and there's a population of older adults, about 10%, that are facing poverty as well. So the current state of poverty in Pennsylvania is an interesting thing to look at and see how we can tackle that problem collaboratively. So more than half of low-income Pennsylvanians work. And I know a lot of times when we're talking about poverty, we hear stereotypes about what people might be like in certain situations, right? maybe they don't want to work is a stereotype you might hear, but that's not true. You know, we know more than half do work. And debt and taxes were listed as common financial barriers to economic security. So in particular, this might include, you know, credit card debt, unpaid bills that keep adding up, all different kinds of situations like that, and a high tax burden, you know, that make it very difficult to make ends meet. And 4 out of the 5 counties with the highest poverty rates are rural, plus the Philadelphia area. We're about to look at a map after this, and I'll encourage you, if you're from Pennsylvania or have some affiliation with Pennsylvania, as I think most of you do, it'll be interesting to see where your counties fall. So 21% of survey respondents that examined issues of poverty indicated they were eligible for government programs, but yet they chose not to enroll. And then 5 key predictors of poverty included living in a geographic area with high poverty concentrations, low educational achievement, which the Women with Children program in particular and the other program address, frequent geographic moves, gender, and childhood experience of poverty. So those are all indicators of the risk for poverty. So I'll encourage you here to take a look at your own counties, and maybe this would be a good opportunity to bring in some comments. But how many of you might be surprised by this map? So the darker blue area, the darker the blue is, the more poverty there is present. So take a look at your counties. Ours is Luzerne here. Would anybody like to talk about what you see for your own county? Anyone surprised? Or not so much? Okay. All right, we'll move on. So when we look at poverty, there are many things that impact people's ability to access, maintain, and develop their employment opportunities. So about 26% of the respondents in the statewide study indicated they didn't have any barriers to employment. So I think somebody's on. Somebody's not muted, I apologize. So about 3 out of 4 people do have some barrier to employment currently. The job market itself was indicated to be a barrier. So the ability to obtain employment based on the jobs that are available and the proximity to work locations. So that begins to make sense as we think about that rural poverty that we were talking about earlier. Caring for family members. So we know, for example, that your Social Security payment is determined by how much you work. And if you become a caregiver and lose work time or drop out of the workforce for periods, for example, you know, you lose income, and also you lose that opportunity, of course, for employment. Child care is a barrier to employment for many people. Lack of appropriate training. So they're not qualified for the jobs that they aspire to due to a lack of access to training. Transportation costs, and then lack of physical health care, inadequate networking opportunities, and relating to the area that many of you work on very frequently is the mental health of the population. So many people might not have access that's sufficient to mental health services. Discrimination, other unidentified barriers to employment, and many of the common ones we know relating to a lack of access to education, the justice system, and addiction. So at this point, I'm going to pass the mic off to Katherine Pohlidal, who's going to share Hage's story. Before I pass it off to Katherine, though, I just want to mention, so the Women with Children program, while I'm not administratively involved in it, other than being on the on a committee that, you know, interfaces with the board, I have seen many students come through it, and some that have been social work majors, some that are currently social work majors, and many other majors. And I just want to say, you know, it is a program that I've seen personally impact students and help them grow and, you know, break that cycle of poverty and increase their confidence. And they all give back and they help address these issues. And it's a really noble cause. And so I'm very glad to be here with Katherine to talk about that. And I look forward to hearing Katherine talk about Asia's story.
Okay, thanks so much, David. And thank you for sharing all of that information. I think it's a good segue into talking about Asia, and just a wonderful example of a success story from our Women with Children program. Asia and I are close. We have remained very close since 2013, which is the first time I met Asia. She's a single mom at the time with 2 children who were ages 2 and 5. And she had come from a homelessness situation from a program called Homefront in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, that serves families that are homeless. And she found our program. She found it online, and she discovered that this could really be an opportunity for her to actually get her college degree and to continue on into a professional career. I think what I want to sort of exhibit here, along with her remarkable achievements, is that she's a really great example of our moms, but certainly isn't the only mom that has achieved such success. For this example, I will say that it all begins with the reality check of a mom who's coming from an impoverished situation, arrives here at Misericordia University with her car that's barely working, her 2 children, and 2 garbage bags of clothing, and that's it. And that's really where our journey begins. And so just to kind of highlight some of the remarkable steps that she took while she was here at Misericordia, she was a full-time student, which is a requirement of our program, for the duration of the 4 years that she was with us. She completed her bachelor's degree, and she completed at the top of her class. At the time of her graduation, she was also named the Outstanding Adult Learner of the Year at our campus, which is something that's actually universities in our area all compete for that one person that gets that award, and it happened to be Asia. And during the time that she was with us, the question she would always ask me constantly, and she really pushed me even as the director of this program, was to think bigger, think broader, and to answer the question constantly of, well, why not? Why can't we do these things? Why can't we achieve these things while we're here? And those questions were answered all the way through for 4 years. And that included everything from, why can't I study abroad? And she actually did. She went to Ireland while she was here, and she did a 3-week educational opportunity that we were able to fund and support while she was with us. She also became an advocate as she went through her experience here at Misericordia, and that included everything from being on a feature on NPR StoryCorps that led to her ability to advocate and go to Capitol Hill, and actually spoke on the importance of SNAP and the SNAP subsidy in front of Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack. I believe that a lot of these experiences and everything that she achieved while she was at Misericordia really drove her future career. And so once she graduated with her undergrad from Misericordia, she decided that she wanted to become an advocate. She wanted to do more for families, do more for people in the state of New Jersey, and ultimately this led her to law school. So she went to New York Law in the Honors Accelerated program and graduated with her law degree in 2020. She then subsequently passed the bar, and she is now an attorney. I'm also pleased to say that along with her children being remarkably successful and continuing on with their educations and doing rather well, she has continued now to kind of go into a full circle moment where she now works for a nonprofit out of Washington, D.C. called Results. And as a person who's working for Results, she's now the senior associate with the Grassroots Expansion Initiative for Results, which is a complete nonprofit that advocates for families in poverty. And so with her leadership, her advocacy, and her role, she's continued on to a remarkably successful career as an attorney. And she's just a high impact person in the state of Pennsylvania. And so you'll see here, this is Asia when she was still a student here at Misericordia, and these are her 2 children, Zaire and KK, who are a lot taller now, I will say. So this picture is when they were quite small. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared this because I think she's just a wonderful example of our women and the success that we've experienced through the years as we've worked with our families at Misericordia. So by way of that introduction of a student is a nice sort of segue into the Ruth Matthews Bourger Women with Children program. And I'm going to talk a little bit about just the background and how this all started. And really it started 24 years ago. So we're a little bit of an older program and it's well established at this point, but I think it indicates a couple of things that we have to pay attention to, which is poverty was prevalent in 2000 and poverty is prevalent now in 2024. And the largest demographic of families that are living at the poverty level in our county of Luzerne County are single mother households. So knowing that and knowing what we are doing, we feel very strongly that a 2-generation model for a program is certainly a way to go in terms of higher education and the access to higher education that many parents are looking for. So back in 2000, Sister Jean Mazeros, who's a Sister of Mercy, decided that she started to notice there was a trend with women who were applying to the university, who were academically viable and simply not coming. They weren't attending. And so they did a survey of these students, prospective students, and they discovered that what was common among all of them was that they were mothers and that the burden of rent was making it cost prohibitive for them to go to school. So the idea at that time was to establish a program that would provide housing for single mothers who are at or near poverty level, where they could bring their children, reside year-round in a home on our lower campus, and focus on going to school full-time and achieving their 4-year degrees. At that time, the vision was to establish this house. It was a donation. It was actually a convent from the Sisters of Mercy, who basically had this vision to do this and say, let's do more for women in our community, and let's provide them with educational access. Since 2000, we have been championing this cause. It's very aligned with our mission. The Sisters of Mercy, when they established themselves almost 100 years ago here at Misericordia, their first goal was to educate the impoverished daughters of coal miners in our region. This was a coal mining area here. And we're the modern iteration of that now. So just to give you a sense of our legacy and our heritage and our mission, it's all tied together. Since 2000, we've had 3 expansions. In 2017, in 2016, 2017, and then again in 2022, and now in 23, we added 2 more homes. So we are now up to 4 homes on our lower campus where we serve up to 20 families at a time from all over the country. This is one of our houses. It's our 4th house. It's called Ann's House, which we just added a year ago in the fall semester. And this example of this house houses up to 4 families. Our homes are designed very intentionally to be home environments. We feel very strongly that our families thrive by creating a home environment and a home atmosphere where moms and children feel safe, feel supportive, and feel that this is a place that they can take ownership of, that they can have as their own while they are here for up to 4 continuous years at Misericordia University. So we wanted to give you a visual of how our program is set up. I will also note that this house is right next door to the president's house here at the university. So when we say we're a community and we're very close to one another and working collaboratively, we truly do mean it. So talking about the model and getting into a little bit more depth around that, I think it's important that we highlight that when we say a 2-generation higher education model, what we really mean is we're going to pay attention to the needs of both the mother and the child or the children simultaneously. Our mothers in our program can be of any age. We do not have an age parameter around our moms. So we have some moms who are in their 40s or in their 30s. We have other moms who are coming in as traditional-aged high school students who have just graduated and are now entering into college. Our moms are able to bring up to 3 children between the ages of 2 through 8 upon admission, no older than 12 turning 13 upon graduation. And so moms come from all over the country. We do prioritize placement for women from the state of Pennsylvania, and we are usually about a 60% representation of the state of Pennsylvania, with the other 40% being everywhere else in the United States. So in this higher education setting, what we've done is we've created these highly structured home environments that have a lot of governance. This includes having a community living contract, civility code, and a number of other rules and regulations that we uphold all the way through the 4-year experience of each family. And what we do is we've created this approach that's based on the needs of each family that's both holistic and comprehensive and is driven by a great deal of case management that starts with a combination of looking at social determinants of health coupled with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you're looking at how do we establish safety? How do we establish supportive environments? How do we make sure that our families are getting their basic needs met? And how do we incorporate that into everything that we're doing very intentionally all the way through? We're going to talk a little bit more in further slides about some of those details, but just to give you a sense, the first thing that we do when we're working with our families and they're accepted into our program is to take a comprehensive look at them through a biopsychosocial needs assessment. So we're looking at their physical health, their physical needs, their mental health needs, and then their social needs, community. And that's one of the biggest strengths of our program. Our families live in community living environments within these 4 homes. And I always say, you cannot hide in our program. To us, it's one of the biggest assets of our program because what it helps all of our families to do is learn and thrive and get the support that they need, both with each other as well as the larger community environment of our campus and the extended community around us as well. And then I'll mention too, with the integrated case management that we provide, it's myself as the director in this role, but we also have 2 coordinators that work collaboratively all the time with us as well. And they serve as the core case managers that support each of our families on an ongoing basis. So for those 4 continuous years that we're providing housing, we're also looking at and evaluating their needs as they go, and even meeting the needs of each child developmentally, making sure that we're addressing anything that they might need as we go forward. Then we're going to talk about a host of programmatic offerings in a minute, but we wanted to make sure that that was something that you understood is a big driver to what we're providing. So in terms of just some of our admission requirements and what's expected, there's a lot that each mom will have to do and provide in order to be accepted into our program. First, they must be accepted to Misericordia University. Misericordia University waives admission fees, any charges that a student would incur. We immediately remove that barrier. We want students to be able to apply and to see if they are academically viable to be accepted at Misericordia. Once they are accepted, it opens the door to then applying to the Women with Children program. Our application and all of our information is housed on our website. So, individuals can go online and apply if they'd like and inquire with us as well if they would like. We get inquiries from all over the country. We also feel a commitment that if somebody does call us, and even if they're not the right fit for our program, if they need some immediate support, help, or information, we will case manage them and help them even from the start on the phone. Once they are submitted with their application and we see that they are appropriate for our program, we will do 2 interviews that we conduct. The first interview is just with the mom, where we're going to make sure that they are a good fit and that they feel the same about our program. And then the second interview, they will bring themselves and their children to campus. Unless they live very far away, we will do a remote interview. Once we feel that they're academically viable, they have gone through the application process and the interviews, and we feel they're a great candidate, they must still pass the PA child line and a criminal background check, which we will pay for, and then they will just complete. Some of the basics that they must also be are unmarried. They must have a primary physical custody of their children. They must have a valid driver's license and a car. I will say that a car is necessary because of where we're located. Logistically speaking, in order to safely transport children, moms need cars. I will also say that we help our families get cars if they don't have them. We know every used car dealership probably in a 50-mile radius of our campus. We also then help our moms once they do come here and have their car. We cover the cost of their car insurance through a car insurance stipend that they receive while they're with us. We also put AAA on every car while they're with us as well, just for basic safety purposes. And then we also have an emergency car repair fund that is allocated to each student while they're with us. As I mentioned, moms can be of any age. They do have to be from the United States, and they can have up to 3 children. As I mentioned, the age parameter of 2 to 8 upon admission. And they also must be Pell Grant eligible. So that's something that we verify once they're applying and they fill out their FAFSA forms, and we get that information so that we know that they are eligible for our program. So in terms of just sort of a general profile, all of our moms sit at or below the federal poverty level. A lot of our moms would qualify as what we call working poor. A lot of them have been gig workers or working maybe 2 part-time or maybe even a full-time job with a part-time job just to get through, but are still not making family-sustaining livable wages. So they're looking for more. All of them are first-generation college students. Many are just high school grads who are looking to get into college. Some of our moms have completed GEDs, and other moms are transfer students. And we do accept 2-year transfer students as well as 4-year traditional. All students get up to 4 years continuously with us based on those standards. Some of the things that we typically encounter and are dealing with oftentimes from the door with our families are different types of social issues like homelessness, like I mentioned even in Asia's case, domestic violence situations where a family might be leaving that kind of situation and are in a shelter but are pursuing education. Some of our moms have been widowed and they have to go back to school or they need to upskill in order to support their children and themselves. Many, as I've mentioned, are multiple job workers or low-income households. Some have been raised in foster care. We've had a number of moms who were raised in foster care themselves and then have come here with their children, and or they're the sole provider and they're looking to get more out of a professional career in order to support their families. The major common goal that they all talk about is this better life for their children is a huge priority, and that's something we're always looking to hear from them, and that they're looking to break that cycle of multi-generational poverty. Many of our moms were born into poverty, have been living in poverty, and are now looking to make that break. All of them utilize SNAP, WIC, TANF, ELRC, and I will mention that that is an essential marriage in our program to be utilizing subsidies as well as their educational opportunity combined in order to make this program work. We'll get into more details about that in a minute too. But we make sure that they are case managed to the point where everything is completely in place. And then we also make sure that anytime they might be audited, everything is fully compliant and they're meeting all requirements for every subsidy they receive. And the bottom line for our moms is they must be 12 credits or more per semester. They must make PACE every year with their academic course loads, and they have to maintain good academic standing with the program as well as the university. So in addition to that, one of the things that we do, because we know ELRC is a big priority with childcare, we do provide federal work study priority placement to all of our moms in our program. So they will automatically have a position that they will have on campus in order to achieve the 10-hour work week that they must have in order to get ELRC subsidized. Also, too, they must follow through with community standards contracting, which we create and then provide to them at every orientation every semester. They're expected to maintain and help with the households, and they also have housekeeping charges among other different tasks that we ask them to do throughout the year. We feel strongly that they need to take ownership of this program as much as we do. I did mention as before, they must maintain physical custody of their children throughout the entire time that they are with us, and they have to provide that documentation. And then one of the biggest highlights that I mentioned is this is not a free program for our families. They do have to pay tuition. However, what we do is we work very hard to make sure that not only are they getting the most robust financial aid packages possible, but they are also awarded numerous scholarship dollars, including Women with Children scholarship dollars for every year that they are with us, so that their debt load, if they're going to incur a debt load at all, it's going to be the equivalent to what the cost of a community college would be for them. Our goal is to make it as manageable as possible so that they are not encumbered with a lot of student loan debt once they graduate. And our goal is also to expedite this process as quickly as possible so that they can get their degrees achieved and go into the workforce. So in terms of the free housing that we provide, it is for 4 continuous years and it is year round. I will mention that we have never closed since 2000. That includes during the COVID pandemic. We never closed even during the statewide shutdown. We just had to pivot and do what we needed to do to support our families. And remarkably, we actually had 6 families graduate during the first 2 major years of the COVID pandemic, which I just think speaks to our commitment to our families and what we're looking to do here to help them achieve their goals. As mentioned, the case management that we provide is probably one of the most critical ingredients that we have in our program, and that's something that has to be provided year-round. This includes through the summers, this includes during breaks. Case management is something that we have to constantly be paying attention to. Also, in terms of not only with the federal work study jobs, but also helping to make sure that our families have any type of campus employment or off-campus employment that they might need in order to make sure that they maintain their subsidies. In the houses also, we have made sure that we're paying attention to all the basic needs of all of the families. This includes the assumption that most of our families are going to arrive with little to nothing. So we have an emergency fund that we constantly use in order to provide the basic needs of all of our families, moms and children. We have pantries, food pantries, toiletry pantries on site in every home, which we replenish every week. We also have numerous resources that we provide both on campus. And I always suggest that everybody who's thinking about doing programs like this, even if it's one offering, thinking about mining the resources of your campuses, thinking about what types of programs, what types of offerings that you have that you can offer to student parents is a huge piece to what you can help in order to make sure that they're successful in their college careers at your respective campuses. But we make sure that those resources are offered not just on campus, but also in our communities too. And then we also make sure that the houses are fully equipped. So they're completely safe, card access only, cameraed. We have child safe perimeter fences around the homes. We make sure that they're completely outfitted. So the houses have everything from furniture to bedrooms that are completely outfitted for each family. And then all of the housekeeping supplies that were needed to maintain a home are also provided throughout the year. Anything that would nickel and dime a budget down are the things that we supplement so that we spare our moms and our families those types of expenses. So in terms of program assistance that we're offering, it's pretty robust. And again, as comprehensive as possible is something that we think is a huge priority. Through the emergency funding, it's everything from clothing to medicines and supplies, nebulizers, car seats, everything that a person might need in order to stay safe, remain safe, and have their basic needs met. We have a computer loaning program. We have Wi-Fi throughout all of our houses, printers and study areas, because we want to make sure that the focus is around the academic achievement of our families and the things that they need. We also pay attention to the needs of the children simultaneously. And I think this is one of the most important aspects of our program, of course. We know that our children who are in our program are in sensitive, vulnerable developmental years, and oftentimes have even been through a lot with their families. And so we want to provide them with as much healthy environments as possible. And this includes everything from providing pet therapy, children's gardens on campus right around the homes. We have children's libraries as well as a reading program. We have playgrounds on site and behind the houses. And we make sure that there's a lot of green space and a lot of opportunities for our children to free play as frequently as possible. One of the biggest priorities that we find that's very important to all of our moms is that they have more quality time with their children because they have the support that they need in order to achieve their academic goals as well as their parenting goals. And then again, a lot of other amenities that we have that maybe sometimes we even take for granted. On-site washers and dryers are always a huge hit for our families because you're not having to go to a laundromat. Everything's provided there in the homes. And what we do is we, again, provide a lot of that community experience as we go through this too. Our professional staff is on call 24/7 and available. Our campus safety office is the same. We also provide orientation experiences every semester, house meetings every semester, every month, one-on-one meetings with all of our participants, as well as we have different groupings that communicate, including private Facebook groups, as well as we have a private group that we meet with just the moms only in order to provide parenting support as well. So just a lot of offerings. And then, as I mentioned, mining the assets of your campus communities. I think this is very important to consider. These are the types of things that we champion to support our moms, both on campus and then certainly off as well. So everything from counseling, tutoring. We have a student success center with academic support that's been vital to a lot of our families. Some of our moms have not been in college in a decade or have been in school in over a decade. They need that additional support moving forward. So we're constantly collaborating and working with different departments and divisions here at the campus. We have dietitian consults because we want to help our moms, not only with healthy choices for food for themselves and their kids, but also that we're making sure that children are developmentally hitting their targets and getting their needs met. We also provide textbooks for free for up to 4 years for all of our moms, and that also includes all academic supplies, as well as for the children too. We also have what we call the Alternative Learners Program, or ALP. That's more specified targeted support for academic needs of all of our moms that qualify if they need accommodation. So we work very closely with another department here under student success that helps our moms that have the highest need for support academically. And then what we can't provide on campus, we then reach out to our community providers. And we have a whole network of community service providers that we work with for all of our families, whether it's family counseling, if there's psychological services, psychiatric care and services, which is a huge issue. Mental health and our student parents is a big thing that we really need to pay attention to. We're constantly looking to make sure that we have those resources that we can connect them to if they need them. Again, on top of that, academic support, training, and study abroad experiences are provided, including internships. And then what we also do, especially starting into the junior and senior year or upperclassmen years, we make sure that they start focusing in on career preparation. And that's everything from making sure they have resume writing kits to proper business address or attire for interviews to assistance with job placement. So a real comprehensive way of looking at the needs of the mom. A few other things that I'll mention. One of the things when you're in poverty, we notice this all the time, which is oftentimes people have not had a lot of care. They've neglected their care perhaps because it's not a priority. They put their children first. And so moms might sort of defer their own needs till a later time. What we try to do is catch everybody up. And then we also mind the gap. So anytime an insurance won't provide coverage, we will make sure that we step in and help. So that's everything from making sure that we do a family needs assessment on each family, mom and child or children. We make sure that they have everything from dental and eye care supplemental coverage. We will make sure. One of the things we notice the most, especially with dental care, is, a lot of our families, we have moms who are in their early 20s, for example, and they're getting teeth pulled in the front of their mouths because they just simply can't afford a crown or they can't afford that dental intervention that's going to maintain their teeth. We've really stepped into things like that and have said, absolutely not. We're going to fund that. We're going to make sure that they have their needs taken care of. Same with eye care. We make sure that, again, if you're going to focus on school and be successful, you also need to feel healthy and you need to be able to focus on your work. So we're constantly looking at what are the needs of our moms and our children for those purposes. Same with mental health treatment and any kind of coverage that we need to also help with, we will assist. And then we also have embedded the Incredible Years parenting curriculum as a resource for all of our parents, along with other emergency supports like mentioned here, like food cards, gas cards, medication, winter clothing, anything that a family is going to need in order to stabilize them so that they can start to focus on school. So also just some other things that we network in and we bring into the program as we go forward too that we think is also essential. Community mentors. We have a networking and professional development focus all the way through the 4-year experience. We also have a 15-member advisory board that also serve as mentors for our program, some of which have served on our board for over a decade and are just very committed to our families and to our program. We also use the last year, we call it post-graduation transition planning. We do not have anyone leave, even if they graduate, they do not leave until the full plan is in place. And that includes everything from housing to their professional placement with their job, school for the children, making sure that they have everything that they need to start off. We do everything from making sure they have the furniture for their first apartment to making sure that their car is ready and safe to go once they leave. We also provide financial literacy classes. This is something that is mandatory for all of our moms. We actually have a person who works specifically with our program to provide financial literacy that's geared toward all of our families. It's been a hugely successful program and it's very, very helpful. And then again, internships and job placement assistance, which is a huge priority. We want to make sure that everybody has that professional placement by the time that they graduate. I will note, this is something that I've been really working hard on, and I want to kind of alert everybody to this too, which is the importance of understanding financial aid from the perspective of those who are looking to get into a 4-year degree program or even an associate's degree program that might be threatened with the idea that Pell Grants and funding may run out before they graduate. This is a big issue. We need to pay attention to this. I highly suggest this is something that you keep this in mind as you're developing programs or thinking about programming and ask these questions. Many people have attempted school numerous times, especially if they've been in poverty. They're on the brink and then they're that one sort of situation away and they kind of fall into that and they can't go back to school. Say they've attempted it several times. They might actually run out of their Pell prematurely from the time that they're supposed to get their degree. I've actually created a Pell Bridge program here with our program that helps us supplement that. Many of our women run out of Pell in their last year when they're achieving their 4-year degree. And what you found is that if we are strategic and we bridge the gap there, it's been very beneficial. In fact, we had some funding from a grant that we utilized where we were able to help 6 women graduate college because we were able to supplement when their Pell ran out and make sure that they were able to afford their college degrees and get their degree. So I just wanted to mention that that's a big piece. And then off-campus activities, I just wanted to mention too, we do a lot of family enrichment programming throughout the year. A lot of off-campus activities as well as on-campus activities are something that we stress for all of our families for enrichment as we go forward too. So in terms of also assistance with the children and the things that we're always looking to do, coordination of daycare and placement is something that's a priority from day one. We also have children who are school age. If they are school age, they go to the Dallas Area School District here. It's a really great school district. We make sure that all of that's taken care of before they even get here. We also do a lot of child development intervention support. If children need IEPs, if they need support with that, we will provide that. If they need any kind of extra counseling or support, we will also assist with that and make sure that they have access to that. We also do arts and literacy programming throughout the year. We have every special event and cultural event that you can think of on campus and off. We do with the families year round, including in the summers. I've made swimming lessons for the children a requirement of the program. We think it is a safety issue. We think it's also a priority. I will tell you that once we incorporated this into the program, we've seen a remarkable difference in the development of our children and their confidence level. We've had many moms also learn how to swim along with their children, and we actually have a swim academy on campus that we utilize for that purpose. It's been very successful. We also can do an extra academic year that can be funded, but it's something that we have to look at, and I wanted to mention this. Some of our moms are in programs that needs that one sort of bonus year. So in other words, we have a mom that transfers in 2 years in, and they actually have 3 more years to go, technically speaking. We will actually allow them to stay and complete their master's degree as well, if they can still do it within that 4-year time frame with us. So I wanted to mention that that's something else that we offer now as a programming offering if they are eligible for one of those programs here at Misericordia. We also work very collaboratively with different programs here at the school, including our PT program, physical therapy, our occupational therapy program, our speech language pathology program, and the campus clinics are offered for free to all of our moms and all of our children, and they all utilize them. We've seen some remarkable impacts with that, especially for children. And then also what's a really nice feature is the children do eat for free on campus during the school year at Misericordia. And then we also provide support for summer camps for the children if they'd like to go. There are a variety of them here where we're located is sort of semi-rural, and we have a lot of opportunities. So we take advantage of that as well for the kids. And then finally, in terms of career readiness and workforce development, another huge focus for our moms. We make sure that we're providing that internship assistance. We're making sure that if they need any kind of professional development opportunities, we will cover those fees. We make sure that they have their needs ready in terms of career prep, along with our career services on campus. We do and have provided opportunities for study abroad, mission trips, and master classes for some of our moms if they have that interest or they need that focus in order to get themselves sort of marketable and ready for that professional career. We also help them with their moving expenses when they exit the program. And then we also cover all of the fees and costs affiliated around their graduation. So we take care of all of that so that that is not a worry for them and they're ready to go once they've completed their degree. Along with that, just wanted to mention that graduate school is also something that's definitely on the table for a lot of our moms. I will mention that at this point now, 80% of our women from 2013 on have achieved a master's degree or more. We have doctoral level students now who've graduated into law school. We actually have a mom right now who's about to apply to medical school. So once we've discovered, of course, that once our moms start learning and realize they're academically capable, they continue on, and it's pretty remarkable to see that type of growth. Same for the children. We do a lot of planning for the children, including through their academic plans. When they're transitioning, we make sure and prepare them as well. what we find is that our children continuously move from one grade level up to another and meet with a lot of success. I will note that many of the children who were here in the early 2000s with their moms are now college graduates themselves. So we know that what we're doing is effective and pretty remarkable and working. And then finally, one of the pieces that we do at the end of the whole experience is what we call Mulier Fortis graduation ceremony. Mulier Fortis meaning valiant women. It's sort of a moniker here for Sisters of Mercy, but we do that and make sure then that they're connected to an alumni group so that they can continue on with their connection with the Women with Children program once they graduate. And these are just some of our moms that are in our program beyond with the emerging statue on campus. And just to kind of give you a highlight and example with some faces here of some of the moms that we currently have in our program that we're happy to share with you as well. So I know I've covered a lot and I've talked a lot about our program. And at this point, I think it's sort of a natural moment for us to say, if you have any questions, anything that we could answer before we talk about parent pathways, which will be the next piece that we'll talk about. So maybe we can open it up if anybody has any questions or comments, anything that I could try to answer at this time.
So it looks, I'll read off some things for you here.
Okay, David, thanks.
I'm sorry for those of you, I missed the geography questions. I missed the chat, I apologize, but let me just scroll down. So one question that just came up, Katherine, is how do you get funded for this program?
I figured that would be the first question asked. And thank you for asking it because it's a very important one. It's actually a confluence of funding that we have to chase essentially all the time. One of the big roles I have in this is to make sure that we're funded, and that means a lot of grant writing on my part, and then also working with a lot of other grant writers here on campus. We collaborate constantly. So it's everything from foundations that are providing funding for us, whether it's emergency funding or, looking at different types of foundations throughout the United States that might have a vested interest in helping, say, for example, single mother households. We're going to approach anyone we can. We also do fundraising activities throughout the entire year. We're about to embark on one on April 1st. So we run fundraising activities throughout the year to raise endowed scholarship money so that we can provide scholarship funds to our moms and help them. And then we also, on top of the fundraising and the grants, we also have some awards from the state as well to help us with the housing costs that also come into play. So in order to do all of this, you're constantly looking at cobbling together as much as you can, all sorts of different types of funding streams in order to make this happen. And then, as I mentioned before, another very essential piece to this is that connection with subsidies. Because the only way this becomes really affordable is if we also have the subsidies to help with things like childcare, helping with taking out those barriers, remediating those barriers. SNAP is another piece, making sure that they have access to food and healthy food and not feeling food insecure. So we're constantly looking at those funding potential. It's always going to be a medley of funding opportunities that we're going to be going after. And on average, we're looking at, we probably write at least 25 grants a year that are major grants that we're looking to find that will help to fund these initiatives as we go through. And then we have a lot of people who are volunteers and people who help us pro bono, help us for free. Like our financial literacy program, for example, is a really good one. We have that person is entirely voluntary. So there are some things that we get for free. Same with we have a Kids on Campus program where students who are education majors come in and volunteer time and help our children. Some moms can focus on school and they help and play with the children, do activities with the children, and we'll also do those things for free. So it's a medley of funders and funding that we have to constantly go after to reinforce what we're doing.
Thanks. Just to give you a sense, we have 23 questions. So maybe we'll limit this to about 10 minutes or so and then move forward and, get back to some of them at the end. But
Sure.
So the next question is just wondering what some of the details or challenges with the children are as they go to school.
Sure. So a lot of times with the children, if they've experienced toxic stress, if they've had maybe even untreated mental health themselves, what we're really looking to do is making sure that they are assessed properly and that we make sure that they are connected to service providers as quickly as possible. That may also mean that we are working with the mom and working with the family to make sure that they're connected to services in the schools that they're going to. So if it's with the school district, if it's a child that's a little bit older, for example, we may be looking at, is there an IEP in place, making sure that that transitions smoothly, making sure that they have community providers they could be collaborating and working with. We actually have a person on our board who is retired, but that's all she did for her career. And she actually goes with our moms to IEP meetings, to give you an example of some of the assistance that we provide. And then again, myself and the coordinators, the two case managers, we will work collaboratively with each family to make sure that not only are their needs being met for the children in the community and whatever providers they need, but then also too, if there's any free services that we connect them to, for example, SLP, speech language pathology is a great example. We will make sure that child has an evaluation for free, and then we'll get treatment for free as well. So we're constantly paying attention to their needs, and then we're constantly paying attention to those needs as they're with us. That's one of the most precious things about our program are the children and the amount of time we get with them. They literally start to grow up in our program. And so whatever we can do to make sure that we can help them is going to be one of our highest priorities.
Thank you. So the next one is how does the program define success, and how much does it cost yearly for those who participate?
Right. So, I want to say, if I'm looking at from my perspective, success is a mom who enters our program and is with us. Every year that we have a mom that is still with us and working hard and doing this hard work and balancing and negotiating this whole entire thing, that's success. Women who start to self-actualize and become who they were meant to be, success. And we see that all the time. Asia is a great example of that. So when we see that arc of success happens incrementally, but then it also the outcomes that we see at the end when they self-actualize and realize what they were really meant to do and then they actually do it, that's success. In terms of the cost, I would say that the average cost for a mom for the year is looking at about $9,000. That would be a cost that would be incurred to go to school. And that would be going to school full-time year-round, including the summer. And with, again, some of these moms, it's variable. So some of them have smaller debt loads than others, depends on their circumstances. Our goal is to keep it as low as possible, as I mentioned before. They're all awarded scholarships every single year that they're with us, every single semester.
Thank you. So we have two comments indicating that it's a remarkable program, compliments. And then one by Dr. Hickman Allen. She mentioned that she teaches at a community college and she may have some referrals for you. So
we welcome it. That's great.
Thank you so much. And then the next question, or another compliment, simply amazing, life-saving. So another question is, why is the program limited to only native-born Americans?
Well, I will tell you that, again, there's some parameters to this because of funding. It's not certainly that we don't want to help people who are not, but I think that for us, the funding is and the infrastructure limitations are probably what really prevent most of this. I think that in terms of looking at financial aid, and how that might be impacted as well, might be another part of this. Again, if there were a way for us to take the model and design it to serve even students who want to come here from other countries, we certainly have had inquiries. But right now we're limited because of probably on some level, mainly the funding and the infrastructure.
The next question is, if a mom becomes pregnant while in the program, is she asked to leave because of the accommodations are for 2 to 8 years of age?
Yep. So if we have a mom who has a situation like that where she becomes pregnant while she's with us in the program, her eligibility would have to change because of liability. However, we would work with that mom in order to make sure that we're case managing her circumstance into a place where if she's going to transition, we do have connections to other programs that do support moms that are currently pregnant. And we have worked in the past. We had one time, we had a situation like that where we were able to help them transition into another program for proper housing. And they actually, in fact, continued their education too. So although it paused for a period of time, they went back and they actually completed their degree. So, which is good news. At the end of the day, she still completed her 4-year degree.
Can you talk about the situations with women getting involved in relationships or choosing to marry?
Yep. So we just say that for our program, women are not married. We do have plenty of our moms have relationships. Plenty of our moms are, you know, in dating relationships or seeing someone. We actually had 2 moms that while they were with us even became engaged. That's all fine. You know, in some circumstances too, a mom was young and actually the father of the child is involved in the child's life, but they're supportive and they're supporting each other in these goals. We welcome that. We'll work with fathers if they want to engage with us, and certainly with the program. We want to certainly encourage that, and certainly do what's in the best interest of the child or the children. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. Same with custody arrangements, because sometimes, you know, again, there's custody arrangements where the father is involved. They have visitation, things like that. We will certainly help facilitate that. We will be supportive. We have met with fathers, explain the program, explain what we're doing, our requirements. We're very, very open to that. So, you know, again, what serves the best interest of the end goal, which is the success of the mother and the children, is something that we're going to champion all the way through.
Thank you. A few more compliments, and then at the end of one, there's a question about what if the mom would have a past charge, or is a criminal charge prohibitive from the student participating?
That's a really good question. So this is how we operate. We have these requirements. We have the PA child line requirement. They have to pass that, and then also the criminal background check. But I'm clear. I will ask a mom, because we know we require this, including from staff. We all have to do this. Is, you know, do you have something in your history you want to discuss? Is there anything you want to share? We've had 2 situations where we had moms say up front, and were very honest, that they had something in their background and that was going to come up. And, you know, I will use the example of the one mom. It was very clear. I asked her what happened, and she told me. She was completely honest about it. She had shoplifted, and had been several years prior, and she had shoplifted diapers from a Walmart. To me, that was not a reason to not accept this mom. She was honest, she was upfront, she explained her circumstances, she did everything she was expected to do to clear things up, and there had been other repeat offending or anything like that. And that person's now a college graduate
Thank you.
from our program.
Awesome. So the next question here is, how do you organize and manage the program?
That's a loaded question, honestly. There's a lot. You know, I always say the program's like a living being. You know, it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. I think that the moment we think we've got it all down, we're in trouble. So the way I see it is, we have to constantly pay attention to what are the needs of our families and listen to them and pay attention to what they're telling us. I think we have to really focus in on basic needs and really stabilizing families, and that means really paying attention to those needs from the door. And I think that we're constantly evolving as a program too, because we need to keep adding offerings. The only way you're going to remediate poverty and get the barriers out of the way is to pay attention to what they are in the first place. And so I feel strongly that we're constantly having to do that, and provide and add programming and keep building ourselves up. Every year we change. Every year we add something new or modify. We get feedback from our families, and we're constantly doing things so that we can improve our approach and certainly the way we support our families going through.
Thank you. Have you ever had occasion to have to kick a mom out of the program?
Yep. Once in a while, we have had to ask a mom to leave. There are 2 major reasons why. The biggest reason why, and it's not, I don't necessarily say kick out. What I'll say is we may have to ask them to leave, but we'll help them transition, is because they're not able to handle living in a community living environment, and mainly because they have long untreated pervasive mental health that is making it impossible for them to either focus on their academics. They're not going to class. Maybe they can't thrive in the community. They're simply just not able to do it. And we don't sometimes see that until they're here. And because they're in the community then, and then it starts to kind of emerge. If that happens, we do everything we can to intervene on them, work with them on getting access to providers, and sometimes even helping them, just with a different placement into another program. It does not happen often, but it has happened. Or there's a clear violation of our community living contract that is flagrant or blatant, and absolutely we can't have it. Like, it's unacceptable or would potentially threaten the safety of our other families. Then we would take action, certainly. Lucky for us, that doesn't happen very often. The only other time that it has happened is if the custody changed for the child. So we require the primary physical custody of the child to the mom. If that were to somehow change, that would also then change their eligibility with the program.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So maybe we'll do one last question here. We'll move forward to pathways, and then, we'll keep through the questions at the end, because there's a pretty substantial sum here. But
Sure.
so one person also asked, if a mother participates in study abroad, where's the child? How does that work?
Yep. So we have a few programs here at Misericordia, historically speaking, too, now, that are shorter term. So in other words, they might go and study abroad. Like Asia, for example, she was about 3 weeks in Ireland, where she was able to have this sort of immersive experience, cultural experience, and go abroad. She was able to do that because it wasn't a full semester. It was just a certain amount of time, and that there's a child care agreement, there's a custody agreement that allows for the other parent or a family member who also is a guardian or helps with the child, would be with the child, stay with the child, or the child would stay with them while the parent was abroad studying. So when we've been able to do this, that's how we've been able to swing it. And then we funded it through grants to make sure that that could happen.
Perfect. Thank you. So maybe at this point, we'll move forward with pathways and then pick it up. Excellent questions, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you aren't tired of the sound of my voice, we are going to embark on the second part of this sort of presentation and conversation. And I'm going to give you just a very brief background, and then we're going to show you a quick video, because I think it kind of captures what we're trying to do. About 4 years ago now, the Robin Hood Foundation, which is the largest philanthropic entity that is working to combat poverty in New York City, decided to launch a pilot, a nine-state national pilot program that basically asked for grassroots initiatives from different locations across the United States to come up with ways to help families out of poverty. How do we create true socioeconomic mobility, really empower families up out of poverty in a sustainable way, and ultimately provide sustainable living wages, help family to thrive, and certainly create new partnerships or new relationships across the board that could actually make this happen. And I actually had been following Robin Hood Foundation for a while. I love and admire their work. Wes Moore, who's now the governor of Maryland, used to be the CEO there. Really admirable work and a really amazing person. And lo and behold, out of the pilot locations, they selected Northeastern Pennsylvania as one of them. So I took that as a sign. I was thrilled to see this, and basically became involved in this new sort of strategy that came from Robin Hood and Mobility Labs. And with Mobility Labs, Mobility Learning and Action Bets is what it stands for. It's this new strategic collaboration that was looking to see what places could do, place-based initiatives that could create real solutions for families. And so the places they picked were New York City, the Brownsville, South Bronx, and Flushing area, Baltimore, Northeastern Pennsylvania, suburban Chicago, and the Bay Area. So we were very excited to have this opportunity. And really what we wanted to do was all step up to the plate on the steering committee with an anchor organization called the Commission for Economic Opportunity, and see if there was a way for us to propose that what we're doing as a model for the Women with Children program at Misericordia could be considered for a larger, more scalable option for our region. And lo and behold, it is actually what they selected. So we were able to pitch it as a micropilot, and they basically came back and said, we're going to give you 4 years, $1.7 million, and build it, like design it, build it, create it, and innovate it out. And it really was like a dream come true for so many of us here in Northeastern Pennsylvania. So we're going to show you a little bit of that today, as a way to show you how we sort of scale out a model that has been pretty effective in a higher education setting, and now could be something that would be more broad, robust, and community-based. So here comes the video. You can check it out, and then I'll step in again once it's completed.
I think we make a lot of assumptions about being poor. There are a lot of really talented people that just haven't been given access to the same opportunities. I'm Lori Boozer, and I am the Director of Mobility Labs for the Robin Hood Foundation. Mobility Labs is a $25 million initiative spread across 4 years that expands across 9 communities across the country. 3 on the West Coast, 3 in New York City, 1 in Pennsylvania, 1 in Chicago, and 1 in Baltimore. They're really answering the question, what would it take to move families measurably and sustainably out of poverty? The key thing is the communities are driving and dictating what that focal point is going to be.
Our mission at the Chinese American Planning Council, CPC, is to promote the social and economic empowerment of New York City's Asian American, immigrant, and low-income New Yorkers. My family and I immigrated to the United States. While we had some opportunities, we did face a lot of discrimination. So we know that we have to work together if we want to uplift the community. And that's why through the Flushing Mobility Collaborative, CPC has had the opportunity to work with amazing organizations to reach more people.
I was born with spastic diplegic cerebral palsy. When I was younger, my parents didn't speak any English, and as immigrants coming from a different country, they needed help navigating the social services realm, and that's what CPC helped get for me.
A lot of times in community, we rely on our neighbors. As a part of Mobility Labs, we are trying to consider that and to try to figure out, like, what does it look like to have a network in the community?
The biggest barrier in communities like Brownsville, I would say, is systemic oppression. Looking at our anchor institutions in our communities, why not invest in the residents to make sure that they get the support that they need to work in their own backyard, to run their community? So partnerships like Robin Hood's Economic Mobility Labs are extremely important. It allows us to have the resources to build the infrastructure that is needed so that the community residents become active participants in the transformation of their community.
Poverty shuts a lot more doors than opens. So we're that unique opportunity to open that door.
I always knew that I wanted to do something like different. And I wanted to graduate high school, but I didn't know how.
No, not interested. The degree of education of a mom dictates how the degree in which a child will thrive in their own lifetime. We provide an educational opportunity not only for moms, but also for their children. We break the cycle of intergenerational poverty 2 generations at a time.
My daughter is so smart and she's so brave. She does things that I could never do, like, or never had the chance to.
We are a true access point and pathway for their educational mobility going forward.
It just gives me a lot of hope.
Mobility from poverty is more than just a job and an income. There are other parts of a person's life that we have to take into consideration. Some combination of economic success, power and autonomy, and sense of belonging. So for example, you see across the 9 communities, each organization focuses on something different.
Empowers residents by helping them discover the most powerful version of themselves.
Jobs to Grow has empowered our participants to take ownership of their business.
To curb poverty and bring in a sense of belonging to an underserved community.
The people and communities that have come in contact with Mobility Labs, they have felt a sense of power in the process for themselves. There's a willingness to push forward and continue.
It's not good enough just for people to make ends meet. We want to make sure that this generation and future generations can move up the economic ladder.
Working at the school for 10 years, people now look at me and not look past me anymore.
I think this is a starting point of something that we hope will grow into something that is long-term and that is sustainable.
Okay, so just in reference to that video, I will mention that the woman that you see there from Misericordia University is actually now a college graduate. She's actually pursuing her master's degree now, but she was part of the video. We were doing this during COVID, and Robin Hood had come down. So I just wanted to mention that just to kind of see how that sort of the ripple effect of student success. So what do we do? You know, essentially what happened was Robin Hood and Mobility Lab said, replicate this program model, scale it out over a 5-county footprint, which included Luzerne, Lackawanna, Wayne, Wyoming, and Susquehanna counties, and see what you can do. Build partnerships, start building up resources, literally everything from the ground up, and then think about how you're going to allocate funding in order to serve these purposes. And so what we had to do first was we had to get a better sense of our community and understand a little bit more of what, from the perspective of those living in our communities, felt. And so we had the Institute, which is a community-based research organization, was one of the first early partners in our small group that we started to gather, along with 3 higher education institutions. And so Misericordia was one of them as a 4-year institution, not just the Women with Children program, but just as a 4-year university. A community college called Luzerne County Community College, which is also located in 2 of the 5 counties, as well as Johnson College, which is a technical college. So we wanted to kind of have that sort of reflect all options in terms of higher education in our area that could be accessible over that 5-county footprint. And then we started to bring in and ask other organizations, nonprofit organizations, and other programs that serve children and parents in our communities to start to gather with us to start to develop this, including like Head Start, for example. And so we did this survey in 2020. We had 860 responses over the 5-county footprint. We also did 41 telephone interviews to just really talk and have a dialogue with families, with parents, and then you know, look at the findings so that we could develop and inform our interventions and what we were going to do to lift families out of poverty in our region. We also, by the way, thought that we were both urban and rural. In terms of this, we thought like our Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area, Pennsylvania was like more of our urban, and then like the Wayne County, Susquehanna was rural, and Robin Hood came back and told us, yeah, you're all rural. So we're all rural. So just when we're talking about this, that's the lens they're seeing us. It's funny though, we didn't see it that way. So just looking at some of the things around economic security, just some findings to note. Prior to the pandemic, 59% of survey responders worked for wages. That dropped to 44% actually during COVID. 43% had food insecurity within the past year, and only 15% were very confident that they could come up with $400 to cover an unexpected expense. And then also one of the biggest barriers to family sustaining jobs that was really highlighted in this, where that 45% said childcare was the barrier to working at least some of the time before the pandemic. Certainly we know that that became even far worse, and that especially single moms became safety nets for childcare during COVID. And so many women fell deeper into poverty. With the Institute also conducting these evaluations, part of what they also wanted to look at were different types of data sources that included everything from student academic progress and employment outcomes up to a year after graduation. They also wanted to see participants' utilization of services from partners, the confidence drive and economic security through some annual surveys that they were going to execute over time, and then annual surveys of partners and program staff as we were designing and building this program. And so that's something that we're actually still in the process of doing as we've been building this program and now executing this program. So this is just our website. I don't know if you can kind of see, it looks kind of funny to me here, but if you're interested in taking a closer look, I know one of the things I saw some of the people asking the question, what about fathers? You know, because with Women with Children program, it's predominantly single mothers, obviously in our program. This was also a way for us to also start to engage fathers and parents, as well as grandparents who are raising children. So Parent Pathways, you know, I encourage you to take a look at our website because it has a lot of the sort of the build incorporated into it now. You can see it in our region. is an up and running program. And this is just, an example of the website. We wanted to look at from the door, how are we going to create marketing and outreach that was very pedestrian and accessible? We wanted to think about our population here that basically said that some of the biggest barriers were childcare, transportation, and access to family sustaining livable wages and professional careers. And one of the most notable things that they identified was the opportunity to access higher education in order to lead to that career. So I just wanted to, so you see what this looks like if you want to take a closer look. One of the things that we had to start then was to think about what are those critical ingredients to this program? How are we going to scale this out and build it? And what resources were we going to use and what partners we're going to bring to the table. So I'm going to go through this a little bit so that you know that these resources are out there. And I highly suggest if you're interested at all to take a closer look. One of the first partners that we had to bring on board was Unite Us. And Unite Pennsylvania, which is the Unite Us platform, is a case management platform that we utilize for this program to support all the referrals, all the referral activity that we have for the program. I will mention that it's also FERPA and HIPAA compliant. And that what it does is it really helps us to create the referral and the network connections that are needed to case manage all the basic needs of our families. The way we do that is when a person wants to apply to the Parent Pathways program, they fill out what they call a Pathfinder form. This form is located on our website. If you could take a look at it if you want. We actually developed it with actually medical students at the Geisinger Medical College here in Scranton. And we developed this very straightforward question and answer sort of form that a person then would populate and then they would share, and it goes to what we call a position that we created called a pathway advisor. We'll talk about them a little bit more later. But the pathway advisor is really that core case manager that then helps the parent that's engaging in the program navigate through this process, and they refer them into Unite Pennsylvania. I highly encourage you to take a look at them. They started in North Carolina, but they're quickly going across the United States in terms of a platform. This is back now in 2022. This is at least tripled in numbers at this point. And you can see this, but the types of organizations that we were building at the time included these 33 network partners. We had partner locations, and you can see through this interactive map, you're able to click on it. It actually navigates you to the different types of programs and organizations that provide offerings throughout Northeastern Pennsylvania. This is how it looks throughout the state now, just so you know. So this build has continued on since 2022, and we've been working closely with them through this whole process. What we've found is this is a very efficient way to do referral and to expedite the process. Well, we have designed this with the Pathway Advisor and all of our partners, not in just the IHEs that are participating, but also the community organizations that are supporting us. We do what we call a series of warm handoffs. We never let that person go. So it starts with the Pathway Advisor, and then that Pathway Advisor stays with the parent through the entire process. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about Unite Pennsylvania as the platform that we're utilizing, and I highly encourage you to take a closer look at it. It might be a great resource for your community as well, and certainly one that we've been looking at. The next piece that we also had to develop was a way to create sort of a partnering or pairing with the partner, knowing that many of the student parents that we have talked to, and based on the interviews, that they needed added support. They needed something that was going to kind of go with them, not just a student and an advisor on a campus, but something that was going to help them engage in this process and stay with it along with the Pathway Advisor. And so we brought on Persistence Plus. Persistence Plus is also another remarkable partner that I would encourage you to take a look at. And basically what it is, it's a nudging system that's based on behavioral health that provides text support, nudges all the way through the entire process of engagement in education. We've had a lot of success with this. A lot of our student parents report that this has been extremely helpful, and it's definitely a piece that I think a lot of institutions of higher education are starting to explore or utilize more. It certainly has had a positive impact on student retention and student engagement. But one of the biggest pieces for us is we've been able to nudge student parents toward resources. whether it's on campus or off campus, based on what they're saying or replying to the nudging system. And so we've made it sort of a smart system that is utilized at all of our institutions in higher education. And that also then is paired up with our student parents that are engaged in the program, so that they are offered this support as they go through. So it's everything from how do you get to your FAFSA form and how to fill that out to, this is where counseling is located on your campus. So it's nudging to success and completion. And we find that is a very successful partner in this process as well. So we wanted to make sure that we shared that with you too. And I highly encourage you to check them out. Also, I just wanted to give you a visual. In the first year and a half when we were developing this, we literally went from having 2 people in a room trying to figure out what we were going to do to having all of these partners over this 5-county footprint. I will tell you that a lot of community-based organizations really want to partner with IHEs. And so I highly encourage these types of relationships, especially when we're trying to be holistic and serve families and students who are student parents, but so also just students in general. But this is just an example of how responsive the partners were from the door. And more than half of them never received any funding. So they weren't interested or invested in that level. They didn't need the funding to participate. They just wanted to be a part of this. So I just wanted to make sure that we gave that visual. Here's a full circle moment for you that I wanted to mention too. Part of what we felt strongly when we were developing this program was that we wanted parents to also have the opportunity to advocate and to also influence policy, particularly around childcare. And Asia came back on board with us as a partner. So Results is actually a partner with us. She's able to train student parents who want to volunteer to advocate for families in poverty and to really focus their attention on student parents, especially who are looking to engage in higher education. So Results, again, out of Washington, D.C., became a partner and has been working with our student parents who are looking to lend their voice to this cause and to also support other student parents who are engaging in this program, and also to influence our own state and the needs that we have for student parents going forward as well. So we just wanted to also share that. I also wanted to give you a visual. These are our pathway advisors that represent the 5-county footprint. All of them are embedded in nonprofit organizations throughout the 5-county footprint that are serving families, and they're working collaboratively with us in order to help us with this process of not only helping the students enroll and engage in programming that's the best fit for them, but also the other services that they could also then utilize for themselves as well as their children. And so we've had this series of warm handouts, like we've talked about. It's been amazing to watch how this has evolved. All of these advisors have been in constant contact with us, including at the IHEs. So we're communicating constantly about how we're connecting student parents, not only to services, but also to educational opportunities, as well as, and I'll mention this too, Career Link and career opportunities. Some of our student parents just need to upskill and engage in learning so that they can get that, maybe that raise or that professional career that they hope for, but they were just shy of some training. Others are going for GEDs, others are going for 2-year associates programming. And then also we have programs embedded at all of our IHEs that are serving student parents. So on the recipient end as an IHE, we're also able to serve student parents in these programs that also help low-income parents who are looking to access education. So I just wanted to also highlight them as a very pivotal role in this program that we've established here in Northeastern Pennsylvania. And then also I wanted to mention this too, and it's another really great resource that we also use, and it's called Young United Parents. They are a really fantastic organization that is completely free, that is designed to support young parents who are looking to have, whether it's support with education, parenting, other support services, between the ages of 15 to 24. Although I will say, if there are parents on either end of that spectrum age-wise, if they're older, it's still helpful. It's a very interactive, I think highly engaged site that we have been using for our student parents. It helps point them to support and resources. But also along with this, we have what we call a YUP mentor. So we have a YUP mentor who's based out of Northeastern Pennsylvania that also provides one-on-one mentoring to our student parents who are looking to engage in programming, who are looking to engage in school or into a high skill trade or a career. Right now, we have 5 students that are working with that one YUP mentor, and it's been extremely successful. We're hoping to expand that in the next year as well. So it's another sort of growth opportunity. They actually came on board in year 3. So they're sort of a newer partner, but they've been a very effective one. So I would say take a look at that too if you're interested. We are going to be adding another aspect to YUP that's going to focus in on higher education support for student parents. That's another thing that's going to be coming down the pike shortly. And then this is just where we're at in terms of partnerships. Again, want to just highlight the sort of the growing number of partners and how we've really built the system that has been working well for us. We have a lot of students that are now engaging in this. I will mention too that we have a partner called Grassroots that is it's a marketing-based firm that's here in Northeastern Pennsylvania that's working with us on a number of levels. What we're trying to do is engage on social media and sort of that networking through social media and access points for education. And then we're also doing, like I mentioned before, this very sort of pedestrian type of engagement where we're going and doing outreach through community organizations and in places where we're calling it where you wait. So places where people who may be in poverty or on the brink might be waiting, whether it's at public transportation, whether it's at an office for subsidies, whether it's at the laundromat. Community-based access means we also need to provide a variety of ways of accessing information, and this is a way for us to do it. So we've been coming up with some of these new innovative ways and collaborating to gain strength on the 5-county footprint. And at this point, we have over 100 student parents enrolled in this program on some level. They're working either on the initial phases and they're just filling out forms and starting to engage. And then we have some who've already graduated or completed a program. And this has been launched for less than a year. So just to kind of give you a sense of where we're at, we have student parents that are enrolling and engaging in this program every week at this point.
Maybe at this point, before we conclude, we'll look at, the learning objectives again, and rethink how we've met those. But maybe we could get back into some of those questions too that we didn't have a chance to answer, and then also too, if you have any additional questions about parent pathways, add those in as well. So somebody asked about the Women with Children program previously.
Mm-hmm.
If there's flexible funding, or do they come with stipulations on their funding? So I guess just a little more about, the restrictions or requirements on funding.
In terms of with the funding, I mean, they must fill out the FAFSA. Obviously, they must make sure that all of that's done and they have to meet that deadline. They would get reviewed for that full financial aid package. We have some moms that have come here with their Pell. We know we can project that they're going to run out of Pell. That's when I mentioned before that Pell bridge programming that we've done. Some of our moms also have run into some dire straits where there's that student loan cap that they've hit too. So we've kind of got this whole situation where they're running out of all funding and they're not done. We have strategized to have some scholarship dollars that are allocated specifically for that purpose to close that gap so that they graduate with their degree. But there aren't really any other stipulations other than that they have to be Pell eligible in order to be in this program. And then certainly work with us. And then the other piece is they must engage in the financial literacy program that we have and that we offer. I will also mention one of my big priorities was making sure that we could provide the stipend for their car insurance. The natural byproduct of that and a benefit to them is that also improves their credit score because it's timely payment. So when we start to think about like how do we build people back up into a place where they can be financially responsible, fiscally savvy, know what they're doing in terms of how to support themselves and their families, and even have a household budget. We're starting at square one and we're really working with them. So we don't expect them to have all that knowledge. We want to teach them that as they're here with us.
So the next question deals with barriers in securing housing assistance. So does student status affect that? Julie, do you have anything to add here at this point?
Yeah, just we have opened up the chat, and rather than making comments, we want you to enter questions into the chat. So I just want to kind of direct you in that way, but we really, really want to hear your questions or see your questions for the presenters. This is really fantastic.
Thank you so much. Barriers with the housing and student status. Is there a conflict in being a student and gaining access to housing assistance?
No, we haven't really experienced that. You know, obviously with the program, you know, we provide the cost of housing for those 4 years. What we encourage our moms to do then, while you know they're with us year round, is to work, especially in the summers, and to start to save, because we need to start to anticipate again that sort of that runway for housing once they do leave, so that we make sure that that's an affordable option and that they're prepared for that. That's something that we're going to take at least 2 years to anticipate and to really work with them. And that's why I said, you know, I think for us having the amount of time that we have is one of the most important things. You know, we're not a shelter. I think that's important to stress. You know, we're not just, oh, I want to come here because I just need housing. That's also not appropriate. We know we want to work with families who are focusing on and moms that are focusing on their educations and really wanting to earn their degree. You know, certainly there are other programs out there that might not have what we expect, but, you know, maybe they would be a better fit for something else. We will also then refer and help to case manage them into the proper program. So, but, you know, in terms of this, as long as they're compliant with us and what we expect in terms of housing, then we don't really have an issue. I will say, I think there are a lot of moms that would love to be in our program that are living currently in subsidized housing and they don't want to lose it. So this is actually, you know, I kind of see that we're mitigating a barrier there by having the Parent Pathways program, because that's another sort of secondary option for those who do not want to lose that housing that they may have waited 2 years to get. And I understand they want to keep it. That's safety for them. And that they don't want to live in a community living environment like what we offer. We hope that on some level we can close the gap with that, with the other program in order to support more parents who are looking to engage in higher ed.
Thank you. The next question is targeted at the children's behavior. Does that affect the mother's eligibility? And this person's considering the impacts of childhood trauma on behavioral development in particular.
Yeah, you know, I think that we have, you know, we have these very clear conversations with our families when they're applying to the program and even interviewing. We, you know, we basically tell them, look, we can accommodate and we're, you know, we're ADA compliant and we want to work with families, but we also need to know that, you know, we're living in a community living environment. We want to know what the needs are of that family and those children. Or that child, you know, and if there are behaviors that we feel that we need to address, especially even before maybe they even enter the program, we may be preemptive and saying, we're going to start to engage with some proactive strategies to help you so that if you're going to come into a community living environment, we can work with you. But I will tell you that we have been really, I think, very clear that that's a huge priority for us. And we've had children who have had behavioral issues. We've had children who've had, you know, there have been concerns. They have, you know, a mental health diagnosis, or they've been through a lot of situations where there's toxic stress. What we find is that because we have that timeline and we have services and we're kind of prepared to do that wraparound type of support, you know, we try to give everybody that best shot possible in order to be with us.
Thank you. How many moms do you admit in a year?
We have rolling admission, and you know, we have up to 20 spots in our program, these coveted spots. With COVID, we went down a little bit in our enrollment number just because we were shut down and we couldn't really bring students weren't enrolling because they just weren't even applying at that point in time. But on average, we admit 4 to 5 students in an academic year, dominantly in the fall. So we have usually have a larger incoming class in the fall. And then as soon as a student graduates, you know, that spot will be filled, and we will also hold a spot. So if we have someone who, we always say the earlier you apply, the better, because if we can anticipate that, say even you're a year out, like we already have women who are accepted for next spring. So like to give you a sense of how far out we can sort of forecast when someone graduates, and then we'll take that spot and make sure we have it ready. We will work with a family, especially if they've meet all the requirements and have everything done. So we'll do everything we can to support them. And if they're already in a program, for example, like an elect program, like in a high school or something, but they're aspirational, want college, we encourage them to start talking to us early.
So the next question, Katherine, is can you give an example of a family in your program who may have not been as successful as the families you discussed today, and what did you identify as the barriers that limited their success?
Yep, it's a good question. I think, like I said before, I think one of the biggest issues that we have is untreated, sort of unmitigated, pervasive mental health. that may show itself or express itself in a way where it may be really a barrier to education. Maybe the mom is not focused enough to be in classes, isn't able to function, maybe in a way where it's going to be successful. And so we've had to strategize. There have been a few times where, you know, we had to really regroup with that family and really get them into services, sometimes take a deep plunge and help them. And they do still get through, but they may struggle. And I think the other big piece is women who academically struggle once they get into school. They underestimate the academic rigor and the demand of going to school full time and raising children, and really having to step in with a lot of intervention right away, like our Student Success Center and tutoring, or undiagnosed learning disorders, which is another piece. We have worked, I have some really clear examples. Even we have one mom who, she was absolutely struggling, but, you know, really wanted to be in school. We didn't know what was going on. We needed to evaluate her. We actually had her tested, and here she had never been diagnosed with ADHD. She actually had ADHD, was properly treated, started a medication, part of her treatment, completely compliant. And she went from having, she went to AC Pro for a semester. She was at like a 0.5. And by the time she graduated from Misericordia, she had a 3.2. So, and now is actually teaching. So, you know, again, looking at those trajectories and those challenges, we expect challenges. And when we do, we have a lot of support systems in place that we activate in order to help them.
Thank you. So just as a reminder to the group, we're going to take a few more questions here, and then we're going to have to stop in about 5 or 6 minutes. But so is the must not be married a deal breaker? What if someone cannot get a divorce or falls in love during the course of the program? Is it ever a problem?
Falling in love is always a problem. No, I'm only kidding. I would say that the piece around the divorce, we've had a couple of moms who were in a circumstance like that, and we absolutely worked with them. Sometimes we even also provided them with the resources. Sometimes they need legal aid, and part of it is just affordability and figuring out what they need to do to navigate that system. We will provide them with a lot of that information if that's what they're, you know, willing to do, and work on it. You know, certainly we'll work with them and see what we can do. In terms of falling in love, you know, again, we encourage our moms to be healthy relationships. We are strict about our rules in our homes. We do have a lot of rules that are applied to even how we have visitation and guests in our homes, because we're housing minors. We're really strict about that. So, you know, again, they can have relationships, they can pursue relationships. That certainly happens all the time. But the expectations are that even if that's the case, they're still going to follow the rules in the houses. So, yeah, and we've had moms who, you know, end up in relationships, you know, get married and everything, you know. In fact, Asia, we talked about Asia, is actually married now. She just got married last year to a graduate of Westchester University, of all places, of course. And actually, I have a picture of her right here. I was the maid of honor at her wedding. So just to kind of give you a sense of how far it can really go. And we're really, really close to our moms. But yeah, just to kind of give you a sense. So we encourage it. We want them in healthy relationships if they're going to have one, you know?
Yeah.
Sure.
What kind of longitudinal tracking do you engage in? And we have about 3 minutes left.
Yep. So we have a couple of things in place that we're doing right now currently, which is we keep in touch with all of our alumni. So part of the benefits of being a smaller program is it's a little bit of a manageable number. Now that number is growing, which is good news, but what we've been able to do is maintain communication with all of our moms. We have this strong alumni group where we're tracking everything from, you know, where their career is professionally, how much, you know, they've pursued in terms of other further academic achievements, credentialing. We also ask and find out, you know, again, how the children are progressing through school, whether it's, you know, grade school or even into high school, and in some cases now college or post-college careers. And then we're also looking at how long it takes for them to also, you know, stop utilizing subsidies. So the average is 2 years. So within 2 years of graduation, on average, our moms are completely off of subsidies because they're earning too much. They're no longer eligible. So, you know, just to kind of give you that, we also are tracking if they're homeowners, you know, just home ownership. So some specific things like that that we're looking at and starting to gather that data as we go. I have a feeling that by next year, so we're going to hit our 25th year, and we're actually going to go through and really talk with all of our families. We're still connected to everyone who's graduated, including our first graduate from back in the early 2000s. And we're finding out even more information on even the children at this point and how much they have done, and it's quite remarkable. So we know we're breaking the intergenerational cycle. We see that their earning power and their success. But again, we're tracking that and gathering that data now in real time.
Thanks. I think at this point we'll call that the last question. I apologize if we didn't have the opportunity to get to your question. Could certainly look up my information or Katherine's on the Misericordia website if you want to be in touch after this as well. But at this point, we're going to get to the post test to kind of assess what you've learned at this point. So hopefully you can describe the current state of poverty in Pennsylvania. We've looked at that pretty closely, and two models. So one specific to our university, and then another that expanded to the region and might be, either of which might be useful to you in your environments, or to take parts of into your programs, or imagine something, even beyond that. And then to think about the intergenerational thing here, and then also the strategies to reduce like poverty two people at a time, or I mean two generations at a time. But you're going to add something, Katherine?
Yeah, and I was just going to say to everybody, if you're interested, to take a look at what the state of Pennsylvania is doing with Governor Shapiro now with the Parent Pathways grant fund that's come out. He's issued $1.6 million to be utilized for strategies just like this, for serving student parents that are low income or in poverty to access higher ed. So take a look, especially if you're an IHE that might be looking to increase or add more services to your campuses.
Okay, thank you both so much, Katherine and David. This was amazing. David, I'm going to have you hide your slides, and then I will share our EPIC slide with the post-test. I mean, I'm kind of blown away, and I also want to go and take some grant writing classes with you, Katherine. Anyway, just so much to think about. Really, really impressive. Okay, let me share the slides.